Ethan Caldwell arrived at his ranch house at 2 in the morning, exhausted from 3 days of emergency business meetings in Dallas. He stood before the massive log and stone mansion he'd built for his late wife, the wraparound porch cast in long shadows. He paused for a moment, dreading what he'd find inside. For the past 6 months, since the accident that took his wife Rebecca, coming home meant listening to his 3-year-old daughter Lily's screams echoing through the halls. The expensive nanny he'd hired charged $5,000 a month, but couldn't get Lily to sleep through a single night. As Ethan climbed the front steps, something felt different. The house was completely silent. No crying, no footsteps pacing the hardwood floors above, no desperate shushing sounds from the nursery. Ethan froze on the porch, his hand on the door handle. In 6 months, he'd never come home to silence. Lily's nightmares started every night around midnight and lasted until dawn. The nanny, Mrs. Whitaker, usually sent messages during his business trips, complaining about Lily's behavior and threatening to quit like the 5 nannies before her. Ethan quietly opened the front door and stepped into the marble foyer. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked loudly, but other than that, the house was peaceful. Too peaceful. Something was wrong. Ethan took the stairs 2 at a time, his boots silent on the plush carpet. Lily's nursery door was slightly open, and a soft yellow glow from her night light spilled into the hallway. Ethan approached carefully, not wanting to wake his daughter if she was finally sleeping. What he saw through the crack in the door stopped him cold. In the old rocking chair that had belonged to his grandmother sat Layla Khan, the young woman he'd hired as a temporary maid 2 weeks ago through an agency. Her long black hair had fallen loose from its usual ponytail, framing her face as she slept. And in her arms, curled up like a kitten, was Lily. His daughter's small face was pressed against Layla's chest, her tiny fist clutching Layla's simple white t-shirt. Both of them were breathing slowly and deeply, completely at peace. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. He hadn't seen Lily sleep so peacefully since before the accident. Usually, she thrashed and whimpered even in her sleep, but now she looked like any normal 3-year-old should look, safe and content. Layla had one protective arm wrapped around Lily, even in sleep, as if she was guarding her from nightmares. The sight hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. This was what a mother and child should look like together. What the hell is going on here? Ethan said, pushing the door open. Layla's eyes snapped open instantly, and she looked absolutely terrified. Her face went white as she saw Ethan standing in the doorway, and she clutched Lily tighter for just a moment before carefully trying to wake the little girl without startling her. "Mr. Caldwell, I can't explain," Layla whispered, her voice shaking. "I know this looks bad, but Lily, she had terrible nightmares again, and Mrs. Whitaker, she wasn't here, and I couldn't just leave her crying all alone." Ethan stepped into the room, his mind racing. "What do you mean Mrs. Whitaker wasn't here? I pay that woman $5,000 a month to take care of my daughter." Layla carefully stood up, still holding Lily, who was starting to stir. "She hasn't been here for 3 days, Mr. Caldwell. I thought you knew. I thought maybe you told her to take time off." 3 days. Ethan's voice rose slightly, and Lily's eyes fluttered open. When she saw her father, she didn't reach for him like most children would. Instead, she buried her face deeper into Layla's shoulder and made a small whimpering sound. "It's okay, sweetheart," Layla murmured to Lily, stroking her hair. "Daddy's home now. You're safe." Lily lifted her head and looked at Ethan with those big blue eyes that were so much like her mother's. But there was no joy in them, only wariness. Ethan felt that familiar stab of guilt and pain. His own daughter was afraid of him. Not because he'd ever hurt her, but because he'd been so wrapped up in his grief and his work that he'd become a stranger to her. "Layla, I need to know exactly what's been happening while I was gone." Layla sat back down in the rocking chair, Lily still clinging to her. "Mrs. Whitaker left on Wednesday. She said Lily was too difficult and that she couldn't handle the job anymore. She didn't even wait for you to come home." I found Lily crying in her crib that night, and I couldn't just leave her alone in here. She was so scared. Ethan ran his hands through his dark hair, feeling overwhelmed. Why didn't you tell me? I did try to reach you, Layla said quietly. But your assistant said you were in important meetings and couldn't be disturbed unless it was a life or death emergency. I didn't know what else to do, so I stayed with her. Lily had been listening to their conversation with that serious expression she always wore now, so different from the giggly, carefree child she'd been before the accident. Suddenly, she pulled back from Layla's shoulder and looked directly at Ethan. "Layla stays," Lily said clearly. They were the first words Ethan had heard his daughter speak in 2 weeks. Ethan felt tears burning his eyes. Lily had actually spoken, and it was to defend Layla. He looked at this young woman who was supposed to be just his temporary maid, who had spent the last 3 nights sleeping in a rocking chair to comfort his traumatized daughter, and he realized he knew almost nothing about her. "Layla, I think we need to talk," Ethan said. "But first, let me put Lily back in her crib." "No," Lily said loudly, wrapping her arms around Layla's neck. "Layla stays with Lily." Layla looked at Ethan helplessly. "She's been having nightmares about being left alone. I think she's afraid that if she goes to sleep, everyone will disappear." Ethan's heart broke a little more. His baby girl was living in fear, and he'd been too busy drowning in his own grief to see it. "Okay, sweetheart," he said to Lily. "Layla can stay tonight. But tomorrow, Daddy and Layla need to have a grown-up talk." Layla nodded, but Ethan could see something like panic flash in her dark eyes. "Mr. Caldwell, I should probably tell you, I was planning to give you my notice when you got back. I don't think this arrangement is working out." "Don't go, Layla," Lily said, the loudest Ethan had heard her speak since her mother died. "Don't leave, Lily." As Ethan looked at his daughter clinging desperately to this mysterious young woman, and saw the fear in Layla's eyes that suggested she was running from something much bigger than a job that wasn't working out, he realized his quiet life was about to get very complicated. But for the first time in 6 months, Lily wasn't crying. And that was worth whatever complications were coming. The next morning, Ethan woke up on the couch in his home office, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He'd spent hours staring at the ceiling, thinking about what he'd discovered. For the first time since Rebecca's death, Lily had slept through the night without screaming. And it wasn't because of the $5,000 nanny he'd been paying. It was because of Layla, the temporary maid who was supposed to be cleaning his house, not raising his daughter. Ethan walked quietly upstairs and peeked into Lily's nursery. Layla was sitting on the floor with Lily, helping her color in a princess coloring book. Lily was actually giggling, a sound Ethan hadn't heard in months. When Layla noticed him in the doorway, she quickly stood up, smoothing down her jeans and pulling her hair back into its usual ponytail. "Good morning, Mr. Caldwell," Layla said formally. "I was just keeping Lily company until you woke up. I can start on the household cleaning now if you'd like." Ethan studied Layla's face. She looked tired but determined, and there was something guarded in her expression that made him curious. "Actually, Layla, I think we should talk first." "Lily, sweetheart, can you play with your blocks for a few minutes while Daddy talks to Layla?" Lily looked up from her coloring book with those serious blue eyes. "Layla comes back. Layla's not going anywhere right now," Ethan assured her, though he caught the flash of uncertainty in Layla's expression. Ethan led Layla downstairs to the kitchen, where his housekeeper, Mrs. Brooks, was preparing breakfast. Mrs. Brooks had worked for Ethan's family for over 20 years, and she knew everything that happened in this house. "Mrs. Brooks," Ethan said, "I need to ask you about Mrs. Whitaker. Layla says she hasn't been here for 3 days." The older woman's face darkened as she flipped pancakes on the griddle. "That woman was useless, Mr. Caldwell. She spent more time distracted than watching Lily. And when Lily would cry, Mrs. Whitaker would just put her in the crib and close the door. Said the child needed to cry it out." Ethan felt anger building in his chest. "Why didn't you tell me this? I tried to reach your office twice, but your assistant said you were too busy with the Caldwell Industries merger to be bothered with household issues. Mrs. Brooks replied. Then, Wednesday night, Mrs. Whitaker packed her bags and left. Said she couldn't handle a problem child anymore. Layla was standing quietly by the kitchen counter, but Ethan noticed her hands were trembling slightly. "What happened after she left?" he asked. Mrs. Brooks smiled for the first time. That's when Layla stepped in. She heard Lily crying and went to check on her. Found that poor baby soaked through, hungry and terrified. Layla gave her a bath, fed her, and sat with her until she fell asleep. She's been doing that every night since. Ethan turned to look at Layla, who was staring down at her hands. "Layla, you're not hired as a nanny. You're supposed to be cleaning the house." "I know," Layla said quietly. "I overstepped, but I couldn't just leave a scared child alone. I have some experience with children, and I could see that Lily needed comfort, not discipline." "What kind of experience?" Ethan asked, his curiosity growing. Layla hesitated for a long moment. "I have a degree in early childhood development. I worked at a daycare center before I took this job." Ethan stared at her. "You have a degree in child development, and you're working as a maid?" "Sometimes people need to take whatever work they can find," Layla said, and Ethan heard something painful in her voice. Mrs. Brooks set a plate of pancakes on the counter. "Mr. Caldwell, you should see the drawings Lily made yesterday." She pulled out several pieces of construction paper from a drawer. Ethan's heart clenched as he looked at them. They were typical 3-year-old drawings, stick figures in bright crayon colors. But every single drawing showed the same thing: a tall figure with long black hair holding hands with a small figure. In one drawing, there were 3 figures together, and Lily had carefully written Daddy under the tall male figure, Lily under the small one, and Layla under the woman. "She drew these yesterday while you were gone," Mrs. Brooks explained. "She kept saying my Layla while she colored." Ethan felt something break open in his chest. Lily hadn't drawn pictures of him in months. She hadn't drawn pictures of her mother since the funeral. But she'd drawn Layla over and over again, as if she was trying to make sure Layla was real and permanent. "Layla," Ethan said slowly, "I need to know more about your background. The agency said you had good references, but they didn't mention any degree or childcare experience." Layla's face went pale as she took a step backward toward the kitchen door. "I should check on Lily. She doesn't like being alone for too long." "Layla, wait," Ethan called, but she was already hurrying upstairs. Mrs. Brooks watched Layla go, then turned to Ethan with a knowing look. "That girl's running from something, Mr. Caldwell. Has been since the day she got here. But whatever it is, she's been a blessing for Lily. Your daughter hasn't had a single nightmare since Layla started staying with her." Ethan looked at the drawings again, at his daughter's careful attempts to create a family that included Layla. "Mrs. Brooks, what do you think I should do?" "I think you should ask her to stay," the housekeeper said firmly. "Not as a maid, but as Lily's caregiver. That child needs someone who understands her, and Layla clearly does." Ethan went back upstairs and found Layla in Lily's room, packing the few belongings she'd brought with her into a small duffel bag. Lily was sitting on her bed, watching with wide, frightened eyes. "Layla, what are you doing?" Ethan asked. "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell, but I have to leave. I should have been honest with you from the beginning. I'm not qualified to be Lily's nanny, and I don't want to cause any more problems." Lily suddenly burst into tears. "No, Layla, no go. Layla stays with Lily." Ethan knelt down beside his daughter's bed. "Lily, sweetheart, what if Daddy asked Layla to stay? Would that make you happy?" Lily nodded vigorously, still crying. "Layla is Lily's best friend. Layla makes the scary dreams go away." Ethan stood up and looked at Layla, who was clutching her bag tightly. "Layla, I'm offering you a position as Lily's full-time caregiver. $10,000 a month, your own room, and all the support you need to help my daughter heal." Layla's eyes widened in shock. "Mr. Caldwell, that's too much money, and I can't. I mean, there are things about my situation that you don't understand." "Then help me understand," Ethan said gently. "Whatever you're running from, maybe I can help." For a moment, Layla looked like she might tell him everything. But then she shook her head. "If I stay, you have to promise me something. If anyone ever comes looking for me, asking questions about me, you let me go immediately. No questions asked. Lily's safety has to come first." Ethan felt a chill at her words. What kind of danger was Layla in? But looking at his daughter, who had stopped crying and was now holding onto Layla's hand like a lifeline, Ethan knew he would agree to almost anything to keep Lily happy and healthy. "I promise," Ethan said. "But Layla, if you're in some kind of trouble, I have resources. I can help you." Layla gave him a sad smile. "Some problems can't be solved with money, Mr. Caldwell. But I'll stay for Lily's sake. She deserves to feel safe and loved." That night, after Lily had fallen asleep peacefully in her own bed with Layla sitting nearby, Ethan stood at his bedroom window looking out at the ranch. For the first time in months, his house felt like a home again. But Layla's words kept echoing in his mind. What was she so afraid of? And how long would it be before whatever she was running from caught up with all of him? Ethan noticed a figure moving slowly along the main road that bordered his property. The silhouette paused near his driveway, then continued on. Probably just a passerby, Ethan told himself. But something about the deliberate movement made him uneasy. He made a mental note to check with his ranch foreman about increasing security around the property. If Layla was in danger, then Lily was in danger too. And Ethan would do anything to protect his daughter and the woman who had brought light back into their dark world. 2 weeks later, life at the Caldwell Ranch had settled into a routine that felt almost normal. Layla had moved into the guest suite on the second floor, and Lily had stopped having nightmares completely. Every morning, Ethan would find them in the kitchen together, Layla helping Lily eat breakfast while they planned their day. Layla had transformed from a scared, mysterious woman into someone who belonged in their home. Ethan found himself looking forward to coming home from work for the first time since Rebecca's death. Instead of dreading the sound of crying, he now came home to the sound of laughter. Lily was talking more every day, and she'd started running to greet him at the door when he arrived. But it was Layla who had made the biggest change in their lives, and Ethan was beginning to realize his feelings for her went far beyond gratitude. On a Tuesday morning, Ethan was drinking coffee in the kitchen when Layla walked in wearing a simple blue sundress that made her look younger and less guarded than usual. Her long black hair was loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in its usual ponytail, and Ethan felt his breath catch. "Good morning," Layla said, pouring herself a cup of coffee. Lily's still sleeping. She had such a busy day yesterday at the park. Ethan smiled, remembering how Lily had insisted on showing Layla every flower and butterfly they'd encountered. She's never been that excited about anything before. "You're good for her, Layla." Layla blushed slightly and looked down at her coffee. "She's a special little girl. She just needed someone to listen to her." "You're good for both of us," Ethan said quietly. Layla looked up at him, and for a moment, something passed between them. Ethan felt the urge to reach out and touch her face, to tell her how beautiful she looked in the morning light streaming through the kitchen windows. But before he could move, Lily came running into the kitchen in her pajamas. "Layla, Daddy, I had the best dream," Lily announced, climbing onto Layla's lap. "We were all at a picnic, and there were puppies." "Puppies?" Layla laughed, smoothing Lily's messy hair. "What kind of puppies?" As Lily launched into a detailed description of her dream, Ethan watched Layla's face light up with genuine joy. This was what Lily needed, what they both needed. A woman who could bring light and laughter back into their lives. That afternoon, while Lily was napping, Ethan found Layla in the garden behind the house. She was sitting on a bench under the big oak tree, reading a book about child psychology. Ethan sat down beside her, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something light and floral. "You don't have to study during your free time," Ethan said. "You're already doing an amazing job with Lily." Layla closed the book and looked at him. "I want to do better. Lily's been through so much trauma, and I want to make sure I'm helping her heal properly." "Layla," Ethan said, turning to face her, "can I ask you something personal?" Layla tensed slightly and Ethan saw that familiar guarded look return in her eyes. What do you want to know? Why are you really here? I mean, a woman with your education and skills could work anywhere. Why take a job as a maid in the middle of nowhere? Layla was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. Sometimes life doesn't go the way you planned, she said finally. Sometimes you have to start over completely, and that means taking whatever work you can find while you figure out your next step. Ethan wanted to ask more, but something in Layla's voice told him not to push. Instead, he reached over and gently took her hand. Whatever brought you here, I'm grateful for it. Layla looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. Ethan, I need you to understand something. My situation is complicated. There are things in my past that could put Lily in danger if they caught up with me. What kind of danger? Ethan asked, his protective instincts immediately alert. I can't tell you everything, Layla said, pulling her hand away. But I need you to know that if anyone ever comes looking for me, if anyone asks questions about me, I'll have to leave immediately. Lily's safety has to come first. Ethan felt a chill of fear. Layla, who are you running from? Before Layla could answer, they heard Lily calling from the house. Layla, Daddy, come see what I drew. They went inside together, the conversation unfinished but heavy between them. Lily had drawn another picture, this one showing all three of them holding hands in front of the ranch house. She'd even included Ethan's dog, Buster, and drawn flowers all around them. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Ethan said, lifting Lily up for a hug. It's our family, Lily said seriously. Layla, you're part of our family now, right? Layla's eyes filled with tears. I love being part of your family, Lily. That evening, after Lily was in bed, a sudden thunderstorm rolled across the ranch. The wind howled around the house, and rain pounded against the windows. Ethan was in his office when he heard a noise from the kitchen. He found Layla standing by the window, watching the lightning illuminate the dark sky. She was wearing pajama pants and a simple t-shirt, and she looked young and vulnerable. Can't sleep? Ethan asked. Layla turned, and Ethan could see she'd been crying. I was just thinking about how different my life could have been if I'd made different choices. Ethan moved closer to her. We all have regrets, Layla. But you're here now, and you're making Lily happier than she's been since her mother died. What if I have to leave? Layla asked, her voice breaking. What if staying here puts Lily in danger? Then we'll face it together, Ethan said firmly. Whatever you're running from, you don't have to face it alone anymore. Layla looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. You don't understand. My ex-husband, he's not the kind of man who lets go. If he finds me here, he'll destroy everything good in my life just to hurt me. Ethan felt anger surge through him. Your ex-husband did something to you? Layla nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. He controlled everything. Where I went, who I talked to, what I wore. When I finally tried to leave, he said he'd kill me before he'd let me go. I had to disappear completely to get away from him. Ethan's jaw tightened. What's his name? Marcus Sinclair, Layla whispered. He owns a tech company in California. He has money and connections, and he's been looking for me for 8 months. Ethan had heard that name before. Marcus Sinclair was a billionaire who'd been in the news recently for some kind of business scandal. Layla, why didn't you tell me this before? Because I knew you'd want to help, and helping me could put you and Lily at risk. Marcus doesn't care who gets hurt as long as he gets what he wants. Ethan stepped closer to Layla, close enough that he could see the fear and pain in her dark eyes. Layla, look at me. I have resources too. I have security, lawyers, connections. If this man is threatening you, we can fight back. You don't know him, Layla said, shaking her head. He's dangerous, Ethan. He put me in the hospital twice before I finally escaped. Ethan felt a rage unlike anything he'd ever experienced. The thought of someone hurting Layla, of putting fear in her eyes, made him want to hunt Marcus Sinclair down personally. He will never hurt you again, Ethan said fiercely. I promise you that. Layla looked at him with something like hope in her eyes. Why would you risk so much for me? Ethan reached up and gently touched her face, wiping away her tears with his thumb. Because you brought my daughter back to life. Because you made our house feel like a home again. And because I'm falling in love with you. Layla's breath caught, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Ethan leaned down and kissed her softly, a kiss full of tenderness and promise. Layla melted against him, her arms coming up to wrap around his neck. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Ethan, Layla whispered, I can't let myself love you. It's too dangerous. It's too late for that. Ethan said, pulling her closer. We're already in this together. Just then, a knock came at the front door. Layla went completely white. Don't answer it, Layla said urgently. But Ethan had already moved toward the door. Who's there? He called. Good evening, Mr. Caldwell, said a smooth, cold voice through the door. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I like my wife back. Layla collapsed into a chair, her whole body shaking. Ethan felt ice run through his veins as he realized that Marcus Sinclair had found them. The man who had terrorized Layla was here, and somehow he knew exactly where she was. I don't know what you're talking about, Ethan said carefully. Marcus laughed, a sound with no warmth in it. Don't play games with me, cowboy. Layla is my wife, and she's coming home. The question is whether you're going to cooperate, or whether I'm going to have to take more direct action. It would be a shame if something happened to that pretty little ranch of yours, or to your daughter. Ethan stood firm, his hand on the door, his anger rising. Layla was still sitting in the chair, her face completely pale. She looked like she was going to be sick. Layla, we need to call the sheriff, Ethan said, kneeling down beside her chair. Layla shook her head frantically. You don't understand. Marcus has lawyers, connections, money. He'll find a way to make this look like I'm the problem. He always does. What do you mean? Ethan asked, taking her hands in his. He has fake documents that make it look like I stole money from his company. He's been telling people I had a nervous breakdown and ran away. If the sheriff gets involved, they'll have me arrested and dragged back to California. Ethan felt helpless rage building in his chest. There has to be something we can do. Before Layla could answer, they heard boots stomping outside. Ethan looked out the window and saw a group of men standing in FaceTime. On the porch, along with a tall man in an expensive suit who could only be Marcus Sinclair. He's here, Ethan said grimly. Layla jumped up and ran toward the stairs. I have to get Lily. We need to hide her. No, Ethan said firmly, catching her arm. If we hide, it looks like we're guilty of something. Lily is safe upstairs with Mrs. Brooks. We faced this head on. The doorbell rang again, followed by heavy pounding on the front door. Ethan walked to the door with Layla right behind him, her whole body trembling. Ethan opened the door to find Marcus Sinclair standing on his porch. Marcus was about Ethan's age, with perfectly styled blonde hair and cold blue eyes. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month, and he had the kind of smile that made Ethan's skin crawl. Mr. Caldwell, I presume, Marcus said smoothly. I'm Marcus Sinclair, and I believe you have my wife. I don't see any wife here, Ethan replied, blocking the doorway. I see Layla Khan, my daughter's caregiver, who has every right to be here. Marcus's smile widened, but his eyes stayed cold. Layla Khan? Is that what she's calling herself now? He looked past Ethan to where Layla was standing. Hello, darling. You've led me on quite a chase. Layla stepped forward, her chin raised despite her fear. I'm not going with you, Marcus. We're divorced. Actually, we're not, Marcus said, pulling out some official-looking papers. You see, you never signed the final divorce papers. Technically, you're still Mrs. Marcus Sinclair, and as your husband, I have every right to take you home. Ethan looked at the papers, his lawyer instincts kicking in despite his anger. The documents looked legitimate, but something felt wrong about them. Even if those papers are real, Ethan said, Layla is an adult. She can choose where she wants to live. Marcus laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Mr. Caldwell, I'm afraid it's more complicated than that. You see, Layla has been having some mental health issues. She stole $2 million from my company before she ran away. The police in California have been looking for her. That's a lot, Layla said, her voice shaking with anger. You know, I never stole anything. Marcus pulled out another set of documents. The bank records disagree, sweetheart, along with the psychiatric evaluation that shows you were having a complete breakdown before you disappeared. Ethan snatched the papers from Marcus's hand and scanned them quickly. They looked professional, with official seals and signatures, but Ethan's gut told him they were fake. These documents don't mean anything here, Ethan said, handing them back. If you want to make accusations, you can take it up with the local sheriff. Marcus's friendly mask slipped for just a moment, and Ethan saw the dangerous man underneath. Mr. Caldwell, I don't think you understand the situation. Layla is my wife, and she's coming with me tonight. The question is whether you're going to cooperate, or whether I'm going to have to involve the authorities. What authorities? A new voice asked from behind them. Ethan turned to see Sheriff Tom Bradley walking up the porch steps. Ethan had sent for Tom as soon as he'd seen the men outside, and he'd never been so glad to see the older man's steady presence. Sheriff Bradley, Ethan said with relief. This man is claiming his ex-wife stole money and trying to force her to leave with him. Tom looked at Marcus with the same expression he used for rattlesnakes. Is that so? Well, Mr. Sinclair, if you have evidence of a crime, you'll need to file a report with my office and let the proper legal channels handle it. You can't just show up at someone's home and demand they turn over another person. Marcus's jaw tightened. Sheriff, I have all the legal documents necessary to take my wife home. She's mentally unstable and needs professional help. I'm not mentally unstable, Layla said clearly, and I'm not going anywhere with you. Tom looked at Layla, then at Ethan, then back at Marcus. Well, Mr. Sinclair, seems to me like the lady has made her choice. Unless you have an actual warrant for her arrest, issued by a Texas judge, you have no authority here. Marcus's expression darkened. That can be arranged, Sheriff. I have friends in high places. I'm sure you do, Tom said calmly. But until you have proper legal paperwork from a Texas court, Ms. Khan is free to stay exactly where she is. Ethan saw Marcus's control starting to slip. The man was used to getting his way through intimidation and money, and Tom's calm refusal to be impressed was clearly frustrating him. This isn't over, Marcus said, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. Layla, you can make this easy or hard, but you're coming home with me eventually. And Mr. Caldwell, I hope you're prepared for what happens to people who interfere with my business. Is that a threat? Tom asked, his hand moving to rest on his gun. Marcus forced his fake smile back into place. Of course not, Sheriff. Just a friendly warning that Mr. Caldwell might want to be careful about who he trusts. After Marcus and his men left, Ethan, Layla, and Tom sat in the kitchen while Mrs. Brooks made coffee. Lily was still safely upstairs, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. Those documents look fake to me, Tom said, sipping his coffee. Too perfect, if you know what I mean. That's what I thought too, Ethan agreed. Marcus strikes me as the kind of man who would forge whatever paperwork he needed. Layla was sitting quietly, staring at her hands. He's not going to give up, she said finally. Marcus always gets what he wants, no matter who gets hurt. Not this time, Ethan said firmly. Tom, what are our options? Well, if those documents are fake, that's a serious crime. I can have the local authorities investigate them. In the meantime, I can increase patrols around your ranch and make sure Marcus doesn't try anything stupid. Layla looked up with tears in her eyes. You don't understand. Marcus has unlimited resources. He'll find a way to get to me, and he'll hurt anyone who tries to stop him. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. Layla, listen to me. You're not alone anymore. I have resources too, and I'm not afraid of Marcus Sinclair. What if he hurts Lily? Layla asked, her voice breaking. I couldn't live with myself if something happened to her because of me. Ethan felt his heart clench at the pain in Layla's voice. Nothing is going to happen to Lily. Or to you. I promise. But even as Ethan said the words, he wondered if he could keep that promise. Marcus Sinclair was clearly a dangerous man with unlimited resources and no conscience. And now Ethan and Lily were in his crosshairs. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept checking on Lily, who was sleeping peacefully, unaware that her safe world had been threatened. He also checked on Layla, who was sitting by her bedroom window, staring out at the dark ranch. "You should try to get some sleep," Ethan said softly from her doorway. Layla turned to look at him. "I keep thinking I should just leave. Go somewhere far away where Marcus can't find me. It would keep you and Lily safe." Ethan stepped into the room and sat down on the chair beside her window. "If you leave, Lily's heart will break. And so will mine." Layla's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, you barely know me. You don't know what kind of person I really am. I know you're the kind of person who sleeps in a rocking chair to comfort a scared child," Ethan said gently. "I know you're brave enough to run from an abusive husband and start over with nothing. I know Lily loves you. And I know I'm falling in love with you too." Layla stood up and walked to her dresser, where she pulled out a small suitcase. "I have to go, Ethan. Tonight, before Marcus has time to make good on his threats." Ethan felt panic rise in his chest. "Layla, please, don't let him win. Don't let him scare you into running away from the life you've built here." Layla was throwing clothes into her suitcase with shaking hands. "This isn't my life. I was just borrowing it for a while. I always knew I'd have to leave eventually." Ethan stood up and gently took the suitcase from her hands. "What if there was another way? What if we could fight back?" "With what?" Layla asked desperately. "He has money, lawyers, fake documents. What do we have?" "We have the truth," Ethan said firmly. "And we have each other." For a moment, Layla looked like she might believe him. But then they heard a sound that made both their hearts stop. Lily crying upstairs. They ran to Lily's room and found her sitting up in bed, sobbing. "Layla, don't leave me. Please don't leave me like Mommy did." Layla's resolve crumbled as she gathered Lily into her arms. "I'm not leaving, sweetheart. I'm right here." But Ethan could see in Layla's eyes that she was still planning to run, and he knew that if she left, it would destroy Lily all over again. Somehow, he had to find a way to fight Marcus Sinclair and win, because losing Layla wasn't an option anymore. Ethan woke up the next morning to find Layla's room empty and a note on his kitchen counter. "I'm sorry. Take care of Lily. L." His heart sank as he realized she had left during the night. Lily found the note too and immediately started crying. "Where's Layla? I want Layla. I'm going to bring her back, sweetheart," Ethan promised, though he had no idea where to even start looking. Mrs. Brooks came into the kitchen with worry written all over her face. "Mr. Caldwell, there's something you need to know. I overheard Layla last night speaking with someone from a women's shelter. She mentioned going to Denver." Ethan immediately contacted his private investigator, Rick Mason, who had handled security for his business deals. "Rick, I need you to find someone urgently. Her life might be in danger." Within hours, Rick sent word back. "Found her. She's at Safe Haven Women's Shelter in Denver." "But Ethan, there's a problem. Marcus Sinclair's men are already in Denver. They're closing in on her location." Ethan felt ice in his veins. "How long do I have?" "Maybe a few hours." "You better hurry." Ethan kissed Lily goodbye and promised Mrs. Brooks he'd be back with Layla. He reached Denver quickly, determined to find her. He sent for Sheriff Tom Bradley in advance. "Tom, I need backup. I found evidence that Marcus's documents are forged. His company never reported any theft, and those bank records are fake." "I'm already on it," Tom replied. "The local authorities are investigating Marcus for fraud and domestic violence charges from his previous wives. Turns out Layla isn't his first victim." When Ethan reached the women's shelter, he found Layla in the common room, looking lost and defeated. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Ethan, what are you doing here? You need to leave. It's not safe." "I'm not leaving without you," Ethan said firmly. "And neither is Lily. She's been crying since she found her note." Before Layla could respond, the shelter director rushed in. "We have a problem. There are men outside asking about Layla. We think they found her." Ethan looked out the window and saw a group of men standing across the street. His heart pounded as he realized they were trapped. "There's a back exit," the director said quickly. "We can get you out that way." But as they headed toward the back of the building, Tom Bradley arrived with news. "Ethan, good news. The local authorities just arrested Marcus Sinclair at his hotel. Turns out he had fake documents and was trying to bribe a local judge." His men scattered when they heard their boss was in custody. Relief flooded through Ethan's body. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Marcus is facing charges for document forgery, fraud, and domestic violence. Layla is completely free." Ethan turned to Layla, who had heard every word. "It's over, Layla. Marcus is in jail. You're safe." Layla collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe it's really over." Ethan knelt down beside her and took her hands. "It's over, and Lily needs you to come home. What if he gets out? What if he comes back? Then we'll face it together," Ethan said. "Layla, Lily said something last night that broke my heart. She said, 'Daddy, bring Layla home. I need my mom.'" Layla's eyes filled with fresh tears. "She called me her mom? She loves you, Layla. We both do. Come home with me." The journey back to the ranch was quiet but peaceful. Layla kept looking at Ethan like she couldn't believe this was real, that she was finally free. When they arrived, Lily came running out of the house, followed by Mrs. Brooks. "Layla." Layla came back. Layla scooped Lily up in her arms, both of them crying happy tears. "I'm never leaving again, sweetheart. I promise." That evening, after Lily was asleep, Ethan found Layla on the porch, looking up at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, sitting beside her. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," Layla admitted. "I've been running for so long, I forgot what it felt like to be safe." Ethan took her hand and smiled. "Well, you better get used to it, because you're home now, and we're never letting you go." Layla squeezed his hand and leaned against his shoulder. For the first time in months, she felt truly safe. Marcus was gone, and she had found something she never thought she'd have again, a real family who loved her. "Ethan," she said softly, "I love you too." As they sat together under the Wyoming stars, Ethan realized that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. He'd found love again, Lily had found a mother, and Layla had found her home. 3 months later, Ethan knelt down in Lily's nursery, the same room where he had first discovered Layla sleeping with his daughter. Layla was sitting in the old rocking chair, reading Lily a bedtime story, just like she had that first night. But now everything was different. Now they were a real family. "Layla," Ethan said softly, pulling out a small velvet box. "I have a question to ask you." Lily clapped her hands excitedly. "Is it the special question, Daddy?" Layla looked confused as Ethan opened the box to reveal his grandmother's diamond ring. The one Rebecca had worn, but that somehow felt right for Layla too. "Layla Khan," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion, "will you marry me? Will you be Lily's mom and my wife, officially and forever?" Tears streamed down Layla's face as she nodded. "Yes, Ethan. Yes to all of it." Lily jumped up and down on her bed. "Layla's going to be my real mommy now." The wedding took place 2 months later in the garden behind the ranch house, under the same oak tree where Ethan and Layla had shared their first real conversation. Lily insisted on wearing a pink dress and carrying the flowers, declaring herself the most important person in the wedding after the bride and groom. Sheriff Tom Bradley walked Layla down the aisle, since her own father couldn't make the trip from California. Mrs. Brooks cried through the entire ceremony. The whole town of Cedar Ridge showed up to celebrate, having fallen in love with the story of the maid who became a mother. "Do you, Ethan Caldwell, take Layla to be your wife, to love and cherish in sickness and health, for richer or poorer?" asked Pastor Williams. "I do," Ethan said, his eyes never leaving Layla's face. "Do you, Layla Khan, take Ethan to be your husband, to love and cherish in sickness and health, for richer or poorer?" "I do," Layla said through happy tears. "You may kiss the bride." As Ethan kissed Layla, Lily shouted, "We're a real family now," and the whole crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. At the reception, Lily gave a speech that she'd been practicing for weeks. "Layla was just our maid," she said into the microphone, her little voice serious. "But then she became my best friend. And then she became my mommy. And now Daddy's not sad anymore. And I'm not scared anymore. And we're the happiest family in the whole world." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. 6 months after the wedding, the adoption papers were finalized. Lily Caldwell officially became Layla's daughter, and Layla Caldwell officially became Lily's mother. Lily insisted on having another party to celebrate. "Now I have two mommies," Lily explained to anyone who would listen. "My first mommy is in heaven watching over me, and my second mommy takes care of me every day." 1 year after their wedding, Ethan came home from work to find Layla in the kitchen, looking a little green around the gills. "Everything okay?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Layla turned in his arms and smiled. "Ethan, we're going to need to make the nursery bigger." Ethan's eyes widened. "Are you saying—" "I'm pregnant," Layla whispered. Ethan picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. Lily came running in from the living room. "What's happening? Why is everyone so happy?" "Lily, sweetheart," Layla said, kneeling down to Lily's level. "How would you like to be a big sister?" Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? I'm going to have a baby brother or sister?" "Really," Ethan confirmed. Lily threw her arms around both of them. "This is the best day ever." That evening, as they tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at Layla with those serious blue eyes. "Layla, I'm glad Daddy found you sleeping in my room that night." "Me too, sweetheart," Layla said, kissing Lily's forehead. "Me too." Later, Ethan and Layla sat on their front porch, watching the sunset paint the Wyoming sky in brilliant colors. Layla's hand rested on her still flat belly, and Ethan's arm was around her shoulders. "Can you believe it all started because Mrs. Whitaker quit?" Layla mused. Ethan chuckled. "Best thing that ever happened to us. Though I still can't believe I thought you were just a maid." "I was just a maid," Layla said. "A scared, broken woman who needed a place to hide." "No," Ethan said firmly, tilting her chin up to look at him. "You were never just anything. You were exactly what Lily and I needed. You were our salvation." As they sat together, watching their ranch bathed in golden light, Ethan thought about how much their lives had changed. Lily was happy and healthy, sleeping peacefully through the night. Layla was safe and loved, no longer looking over her shoulder in fear. And Ethan had learned to love again, deeper than he'd ever thought possible. Sometimes the most precious gifts came disguised as ordinary things. Layla had come to them as a maid, but she had given them something much more valuable. She had made them a family again.